Today we will tackle character needs. Needs are hunger, drinks, bladder, hygiene, fun, energy, social, and environment. Each character will track all those needs and will have to satisfy them in some way. Select character and open character script. Let's wrap the character class into the namespace for better organization. Call this namespace character system. Now we will want to make the needs and to store the needs state. We will make a class called needs. Inside declare public float state. Current state will have value between 0 and 100, where 0 is when this need is completely unsatisfied and 100 is when this need is maxed out. Let's declare our needs. So to define them, let's make an enum. We can have two of the same name. Let's call our needs class as needs container. Then inside the enum, we will declare the enumerator of all the needs our character will possess. Put the newly created enum into the needs container, so we will be able to identify what need type is this container. And then, inside the character, make serialized list of needs. In the editor, we have broken our reference to the character because we wrapped it into the namespace. So to be able to reference the character, we need to import the character system namespace. Now, if we select our character, we see nothing in the inspector. This is because to be able to edit the custom class in the editor, we have to serialize it. Set class to be serializable. We need to import system library for it to work. Now you can see the list of needs in the editor. But it could be really annoying to have to set everything by your hand. So let's introduce a new method in the character called initNeeds. This method will populate the list of needs by using for loop. First initialize list, then cycle through all the needs. We have 8 needs in the game, so our condition will be less than 8. There is an issue. This 8 is meaningless. It says nothing. We call this magic number. Number out of nowhere. Who knows what it represents? So let's extract this 8 into the new constant variable called needsCount. Now we use variable with descriptive name of what it represents. Now let's add a new needs container to the list, and we need to make each new need identifiable. So let's introduce a constructor to the needs container class, where we will pass the enum to identify what type of needs is this container which is being created. So now in the for loop we need to pass the need enum. And we can do it by converting our index of the loop into the needs enum. And this is possible because behind the enum it is actually just an integer number. You can even see that if you open the enum and hover over the members, they will have equals some kind of number. That means our hunger is equal to 0, drinks to 1, bladder is to 2, etc, etc. Let's make it possible to call this method in our editor. Add attribute to this method called context menu. And this will allow us to call this method from the editor in the inspector of our character component. And as you can see, if we do it, it will create list of all needs and populate with data. For demonstration, let me kill this list and do it again. You see, it's perfect. This episode is brought to you by generous support of people on Patreon and viewers like you. Please click on the like button if you like the tutorial, and if you have any questions, leave the comment. If you want to support further, you can join my Patreon and be featured like those cool people you see on the screen. Back to the usual program. With this out of the way, let's make a UI, which will reflect the state of the character. First, let's set our screen to be 16 by 9. This is the most commonly used resolution aspect ratio on the market. Okay, then make a panel, which we will call Needs panel. Align it to the bottom right. Good. Then on this panel, let's make a smaller panel and call it Needs UI element. Make the text for name of the need. Align it and resize the text. Resize the Needs panel. Create a new image which will serve as base of our Needs bar. Make it red. Then create bar on top of this bar to represent an actual amount of field. Select the base bar and add a new component called slider. This slider will be used to slide the top bar. Set the fill rect to be our top bar. And now by changing the value of our slider, it will work. Don't forget to set the max value to 100. Good, now prefab this UI element. So now let's duplicate this element to create 8 need UI elements for each need. After that done, make sure your UI elements are ordered correctly. So order is 4 of the elements on the left from top to bottom and 4 more elements from top to bottom on the right. Good. Now we need to link our panel to the character stats. First select the UI element and create an add needs UI element component. But it will only be added to one element. But because our elements are prefabbed, we can just apply the change, which adds the need UI element to the prefab. And now each UI element, which is an instance of this prefab, will have needs UI element component. Open newly created script. And here we need to add the status slider preference. And reference the status slider in the Unity. Now if we apply the changes, each of our needs UI element will have a reference to their slider, because each of those UI elements are of the same prefab. Good. Inside the needs UI element, create new method called setStatus. Pass the new value of the slider and set the value Let's make sure the passed value is not going outside the predefined range for our needs. To do this, let's clump the value between 0 and 100. Now, on the need panel, let's add and create a new component called need panel. We will be using this component to reflect the state of the selected character. We will use the needs UI element, so make a serialized list. And reference each of the existing UI elements on the panel. Good. Now create serialized reference to the character. And in the update, let's call and create a new method called updatePanel. And pass test character as a parameter. Inside, cycle through all the elements and set the status by pulling the needs state from the character. This is just a test, we will be expanding on this system later. Let's test this. Reference a character. But we cannot do that, because character is placed on a different scene. We are just testing, so just move the character to the essential scene. Good, if I adjust the character needs state, it will be reflected on the status panel. I just noticed I forgot to rename the status panel elements. So as a last thing for tonight, let's rename them. So now each of the related needs will be titled properly. This is it for this episode. Special thank you to The Soul Hashdo and Stormbreaker 9000. See you in the next episode.